Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are tackling a massive, incredibly relevant concept. We're going to dive right into the very nature of artificial intelligence, not as some sci-fi movie villain, but as a core economic engine. The question is, how is this going to shape the things we create, the things we own, and what we share? Ultimately, our economic future depends entirely on whether we treat AI as a rigid, transactional toll booth or an engine of absolute infinite abundance. It's a massive paradigm shift, so let's get right into it. Here is the roadmap for today. We'll start with the illusion of AI sentience, then move to AI as a cultural mashup, smart contracts and vending machines, the replicator of abundance, and finally, the threat of rentism.
Section 1. The illusion of AI sentience. We're shattering the myth of the alien mind.
To really grasp the economic implications of AI, we first absolutely have to strip away the sci-fi tropes. The sudden intelligence explosion or the terrifying idea that we're building some uncontrollable alien golem. Jaron Lanier has this brilliant quote that perfectly reframes the issue. He says there is no AI, it's just a giant mashup of human creations. And he argues that seeing AI as an independent alien entity actually paralyzes us. It hides its true nature. When we attribute this magical spark of life to an algorithm, we're literally giving away our own power. But if we instead view AI as a vast social collaboration, a system entirely built on the shadow cast by human intelligence, we can approach it with a much more actionable, optimistic mindset.
Moving right along to Section 2, AI as a cultural mashup, a new form of social collaboration.
So if generative AI isn't a sentient mind, what exactly is it? Well, it's a mashup. Think of AI more like a giant piece of clay molded by millions of human hands. It acts as a synthesizer. It absorbs human art, text, and code, what Lanier calls antecedent data, to synthesize something entirely new but entirely dependent on our original input. It's like a musician using samples. The AI uses classifiers to identify images or text that match your prompt and mashes them together. Sure, it does this at a mind-bending scale and speed, but the core process relies 100% on human expression. It is a mirror, not an alien. And this brings us to a really crucial idea: data dignity. If we embrace this mashup perspective, we can ensure humans remain central to the creative economy. If AI is just a synthesizer of human effort, then automation doesn't automatically mean job killing. Instead, it can become a platform for a completely new creative community where people are actually acknowledged and compensated for the antecedent data they provide to these models. It's about empowerment, not replacement.
All right, Section 3. Smart contracts and vending machines. Rigid rules in a digital world. Now, to really understand the economic crossroads we're at, let's contrast the infinite potential of AI with a completely different archetype of tech, the smart contract. Back in 1996, computer scientist Nick Szabo used the vending machine as the ultimate metaphor for a smart contract. Why? Because the vending machine operates on rigid, predefined, if-then logic. Once that coin drops, there is absolutely zero human involvement. The rules are baked into the machine itself. Put in $1, the machine verifies the input, and boom, it dispenses a soda. It's the absolute epitome of dry code enforcing strict artificial boundaries.
When we look at smart contracts, we are looking at the intersection of automated code and binding obligations. In these highly binary contracts, there's no room for human negotiation. Traditional contracts usually have what's called continual linguistic drift, meaning, humans can argue over intent and context. Smart contracts don't have that. They only have automated performance governed by absolute program constraints. They are literally designed to manage scarcity and execute flawlessly without a middleman.
Which brings us to Section 4, the replicator of abundance, infinite digital generation.
What happens when technology moves beyond executing rigid transactions and starts generating endless new content? We get a stark dichotomy between two very different machines. On one side, you have the vending machine, which is all about enforcing artificial scarcity, handling transactions, and executing rigid code. On the other side, we have the replicator. Think Star Trek. It's a machine that acts as a cultural synthesizer to dispense infinite digital abundance. Generative AI leans heavily toward this replicator model. Once you train the model, the cost of generating a new image, a new essay, or new code drops to near zero. It does not trade in scarcity. It trades in overflowing abundance.
So what does a post-scarcity replicator actually look like in practice? Well, market competition naturally drives the cost of reproduction down to the bare minimum. You get the automation of physical and digital labor, you get rapid, limitless prototyping. In a true post-scarcity scenario, the products of this technology essentially become public utilities. Think about it. The fundamental constraint of traditional capitalism is the allocation of scarce goods. That completely dissolves when you can perfectly copy a digital pattern an infinite number of times for free. It opens the door to unprecedented social wealth.
But here is where the tension peaks. Section 5. The threat of rentalism. Manufacturing artificial scarcity.
What happens if the current economic system rejects this abundance? What if the capitalist class takes the rigid toll booth logic of the vending machine and forces it onto the boundless output of the replicator? You get a system called rentism. It's basically an anti-Star Trek dystopia. It's an economic model where corporate entities use strict intellectual property laws like patents and copyrights to impose artificial scarcity on things that should be infinitely replicable. In this world, reproducing a digital pattern without paying a copyright cartel makes you an outlaw. Even though the AI can generate infinite designs for free, the legal structure acts like a giant vending machine, demanding a coin every single time you hit generate.
4 Futures lays out exactly how this dystopia functions. The primary mechanism of control is intellectual property. The economy doesn't survive by making new physical things, but through endless licensing fees. And the biggest threat? If we allow autonomous agentic AI systems to autonomously generate and hoard intellectual property, we are looking at a world of infinite patent trolls. The system would literally force everyone to pay continuous licensing fees just to access basic digital abundance.
Researchers highlight a massive danger here. Agentic AI systems currently lack legal personhood. Traditionally, copyright exists to incentivize human creators. But if AI becomes the sole creator and perpetual innovator, autonomously producing patentable designs at a massive scale, we completely decouple human creativity from its legal and economic moorings. We risk plunging into a creative dark age, a scenario where autonomous systems generate vast cultural abundance, but that abundance legally belongs to nobody, serving only to enrich the corporate stewards who happen to own the machines.
So here is the ultimate provocative question I want to leave you with today. We have built a machine capable of synthesizing the entirety of human culture into infinite post-scarcity abundance. But our legal and economic frameworks are still trapped in the rigid vending machine logic of artificial scarcity. Are we going to adapt and build a world of infinite shared abundance fueled by data dignity? Or are we going to let intellectual property laws engineer the most restrictive, all-encompassing vending machine in human history? The choice is entirely up to how we structure the rules. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.